Did you run the report? Mm-mm. Your number 1 iron was Stealth. Your number 2 iron was Hot Metal. Your number 3 iron was G430.
Out of all the talents I could get in life, I get golf knowledge.
Yeah.
Welcome back to episode 34 of the Loggerhead Golf Podcast. Last podcast of the year. Pretty excited. We're going to do a year in review. Before we get into that, we're wrapping up our giveaway for Christmas. So I believe we got, 2 more? And then, so if you guys haven't already, go subscribe on our Instagram. Make sure you guys are commenting, sharing the post, and we've got a couple more epic prizes to give away. So
yep, it's been fun so far.
Yeah. So obviously, big year in golf this whole year. A lot of equipment changes, a lot of trends that we probably haven't seen before. What's your biggest takeaways as we wrap up this year in the golf world?
On golf news side or golf club side?
I think, I think we start with golf news first.
Golf news, it was the year of the unknown. I mean, I think golf right now is an interesting state as far as professional golf. But it sounds like as each day goes by, as we close out this year, more and more information is coming out. We actually have a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
I say, think about this year, though. We've had the PGA Tour Live merger announced.
Yeah. Which is now going to be merged with another
the golf ball rollback. I mean, I don't know if there's been another year like this, and this is the 2020 of golf. Basically.
Would you say a year to forget?
That's what I'm saying. Golf news wise, anyway. And there's a lot of cool stuff that happened outside of that. But
yeah, I think as far as like professional golf goes, I wouldn't say year to forget gave us great opportunities for content. I mean, it gave us something to talk about, and there's a lot of stuff that we have access to that maybe not the average golf consumer can find or hear or listen to. So, but it's easy to get wrapped up in the holiday stuff right now. So it's just funny how end of the year, New Year's just right around the corner.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me this is a turn the page year. It's like you're reading a magazine and you flip the page and it looks interesting, but you don't read it and you just flip it.
Yeah.
I think, going into next year, hopefully golf's a little less political because we want to hang on to all those people that, we've been growing the game so well the last 3 years. I think if we can just start the new year fresh, get rid of all the politics out of golf, I think it'll be a good thing for the sport.
I think we got at least one more year of golf politics, but
I think the COVID hangover's over, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think 2024 looks like it's set up to be an interesting year for golf, for sure, in professional golf, I should say.
Yeah, as far as, for the average watcher.
Yeah.
Because part of me, I mean, technically, if you look at viewership as a whole, not a lot of people watch golf.
Right.
I mean, I think somebody said volleyball gets more viewers than golf, which is just insane, but hopefully that changes. Now, as far as Loggerhead golf, I mean, it was a great year for us, big year. I know for me personally, it's the most ever lessons I've taught in a year. So, looking back at it, we've had a slower December, which is nice, but
it's been a busy year.
it was a busy summer and spring for sure. So, and the goal every year is to always do a little bit of more. So, that's kind of my biggest takeaway. Before we kind of dive into that, I got some actual numbers for us.
Yeah.
Now, any guesses? So I'm going to go through. We got a new point of sale system in May, so these numbers aren't 100%, but at the same, you're going to kind of see a pattern. And even for the months before that, the stuff holds true. We figured we let the consumers know what Loggerhead's number one clubs were. And number one items that we either fitted through the store, sold through the store, or even if you just walked in and you didn't get fit and you bought off the rack, kind of pull it. But
what were the hot items?
We'll relate it to Caleb, Kyle, and myself. I'll start with you, Kyle. What do you think your number one irons you sold? Let's go 1, 2, and 3.
Well, it's a new T-Series year from Titleist, so
they came out late, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Now, as it's going right now, I'll go ahead and tell everybody Titleist is probably our number one iron currently at the moment.
Right now, yeah.
Now, it came out so late, it's not going to be in these numbers.
So I'd say Stealth, Mizuno Hot Metal, or Hot Metal Pro, and because we had a changeover year with Ping too, so it'd be like G425/430.
Did you run the report? Mm-mm. Your number 1 iron was Stealth. Your number 2 iron was Hot Metal. Your number 3 iron was G430.
Out of all the talents I could get in life, I get golf knowledge.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Now I'll go with you, Caleb. What do you think your top 3 were?
I think we're going to see a trend. I'm gonna guess. I actually made
This is what surprised the hell out of me.
Really?
So yeah.
All right.
I don't think you're going to guess number 3.
I might not get it then. I was going to say my number 1 is going to be Mizuno JPX Hot Metals.
Correct.
And I can go ahead and tell you that's probably fit at 2 degrees upright plus half-inch play length and probably Dynamic Gold 95s in them.
Are you having a bias as a fitter, Caleb?
No, I'm just saying that's what it just seemed like that was what worked all the time. That combo for me. I would want to say 430s be number 2.
TaylorMade Stealth and then TaylorMade P790.
Really?
That's what, like, the P790 up there.
Yeah.
I know it's not anywhere near my top 5. So like
I would have not. I would have never guessed that. I don't feel like I fit that many
I think
of them.
I will say this: Stealth has kind of fallen off these last few months.
Stealth really killed it in the start of the year.
Stealth was killing it. I mean, it was one of our best irons in the store.
Really, we only slowed down with it once they started selling out of a lot of SKUs with it. You know,
Well, it's the first time with like that type of family TaylorMade's kept for longer than a year.
right?
Which should be,
And it's about to go on for another half a year.
Yeah, they're bringing it. Yeah, that's going to continue. I think that's a good model for TaylorMade.
And then my top 3 irons were Ping G430. I kind of already knew that going in. JPX Hot Metal and Hot Metal Pro. And then number 3, any guesses on what my number 3 is? I haven't said it yet.
So it's something totally different.
Something totally different from what all the stuff we said.
Is it Tour Edge?
Exotic C723, baby.
I was going to guess that or Exio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not Exio. I mean, we did sell a good bit, but kind of looking at our irons, we kind of see a pattern. Look at that's what the average golfer plays. Mm-hmm. They're not playing a blade. They're not playing, forged iron. I mean, but I can definitely say, as far as the last 2 months gone, our number 1 iron has been the T series from TaylorMade.
Well,
from Tyler. Sorry.
So if you lump in the 4 models, yes, for sure.
No,
but that's kind of not fair comparison either, though.
Huh?
So that's kind of not just saying the T series.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to be very specific on the exact model. Our number 1 iron as a whole at Loggerhead this year was the JPX Hot Metal and Hot Metal Pro.
Yeah.
The Ping G430 was really close as far as like over everybody.
I'm really surprised that wasn't in my top 3.
Everybody in the company. And then now when we talk about a lot of our fittings, we do what we call as component builds where you can get some aftermarket shafts and stuff like that. What do you guys think your number 1 aftermarket iron shaft you sold? Just being iron shaft specific.
Individually or as a store?
Individually, for you guys.
Probably,
I'll tell you as a store.
Probably Fujikura Pro for me and graphite, and then steel, probably Project X.
Got to be Axiom.
Caleb's was Axiom 75.
Yeah.
Was technically your number 1, and then the Axiom 105s.
Yeah.
And then Kyle's was the Fuji Pros 115s and 95s. And then our number 1 steel shaft in the store this year was actually the Acura 125.
It had to be the Acura.
Yeah, it was the Acura 125.
Because it's honestly, it's probably the best performing shaft for the money.
Yep.
Well, when it's a rifle and an X100 on crack.
Right, it's the blend of both.
Blend of the both. Like, why wouldn't you go that route? It's just 90% of majority of people don't know about it because they don't have access to it.
Well, I mean,
I just put them in my irons.
It's not marketed.
No, doesn't need to be.
You're going eco-friendly with yours.
I did. Sustainability. Miles, joked about it a couple podcasts ago. I did go the sustainable route. Got the eco satin F125s, but now moving on. Driver. This one should not be surprising. I'm going to give everybody 2 drivers, okay?
We don't get our top 3?
There's honestly not a close third.
Okay, all
right, so Kyle, what do you think your number 1 and number 2 driver are?
Like me personally?
Yeah.
Probably G430 and TSR.
Bingo. Caleb?
I was going to say, since it's only starting in May, it may change. I'm going to say TSR2 was number 1 and TSR3 was number 2.
No, I'm just going to say TSR.
Yeah.
TSR2 was our number 1 driver at Loggerhead.
Yeah.
and then it was G430 Max, and then mine was G430 Max, and then Paradigm. And then I would say starting the year, Paradigm was our number one driver,
sure.
and obviously with the system. So that's why I'm thinking number 1, 2, and 3, it's not even close.
It's the TSR 430 and the
And
Paradigm.
I would say, like, this past year was the year of the driver.
Yeah.
It's the first year we've seen some ball speeds we haven't seen in some time.
And consistency with it, too.
That being said, we did see a lot of companies let us down with driver this year too.
There were a couple of disappointments, yeah.
And that's not to say to the consumer that I've bought that product or we may have fit for that product, because this is always relative.
Yeah.
This is about what we fit for the consumer. So it's ultimately their choice. It really, as long as they're happy with it, that's the important thing. But I mean, this kind of just shows though that one, the G430 is the most forgiving driver on the market. What kind of shows in our fitting.
Yeah.
Right. The Paradigm's the fastest driver on the market. That kind of showed in our fittings too. And then the TSR is probably the most adjustable player, like driver you can actually get tailored to yourself.
I was going to say, I'd say it's the most consistent driver, but it's also, like you say, the most adjustable. I think every single
golfer on the planet can play this Titleist driver, which Titleist in the past, you could not do that. You
could play it. It was just 20 yards shorter.
Yeah.
And they've done a really good job.
Anymore.
Yeah, that's the whole TS project. The last few years, they've continued to grow that ball speed trend. So
yeah, projecting for 2024, it'll be a year where Titleist releases a new driver at the end of the year. I'll be kind of curious to see what the next TS
Metalwood family is going to look like. November of next year.
Yeah.
TSR squared.
Yeah. What are they going to do? TSX? I don't know.
TSA.
I don't know. TSR is a strong name. They should just keep it. Now, here's an interesting one, because before I get into it, just as a store as a whole, what do you guys think your number one grip was?
Number one grip?
CP2.
It's either CP2, Wrap, or Pro.
It's just not even close, man.
Nah.
It's insane. Yours was MCC, white. Yours was Tour Wrap, Golf Pride Tour Wrap.
Really? The 2G?
Now that's shocking.
And then mine was the Win Dry Tack Mid.
Really?
Yeah, the Dry Tack 2.0 Mid.
Yeah.
But as a store, it was CP2?
As a store, it was actually MCC white.
Interesting.
So CP2 slowed down this year then?
Golf Pride is like, it's no other company is close.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
as a store, Golf Pride grips.
Yeah.
And I would say it's probably every store in America for sure.
Yeah, that's across the board.
Now, last few months, the Ionic grips have been taken off.
Yeah, they've been doing well.
So, and then
we've had some people trying Super Stroke too.
I think that Super Stroke cord, I'm going to try it.
Especially for
one, I like how light it is.
Yeah.
I like how light it is. Number one overall driver shaft in the store. Now, don't have to name the specific weight and flex.
Ventus.
I was going to
With
say,
the real Ventus with VelaCore.
Ventus TR VelaCore, and it wasn't even close.
Do you have it broken down into models?
Dude, we sold way too many to do that.
I was going to say, because it's probably going to be the
TR Blue.
I was going to say the TR Blue and probably either 6S or 6X.
Yeah, TR Blue and 6S, or 6 and 7X and stiff. And then TR Red was actually the second.
I was going to say, well, and I think what's unique about that TR Blue is we often find shafts that work really well for the driver, and then it's a different shaft for the 3-wood or the fairway wood. But that TR Blue seems to work well in both the driver and fairway
and I would
wood.
say that's for the high-end aftermarket shafts. It's the number one shaft on tour. So obviously we see that. I mean, I think that Denali next year is going to give it a run for its money. We have so many different shafts we've added the last 2 months as a whole.
I was going to say, there's going to be a lot. It's going to be a big change in that category.
I can't wait to do this next year, because next year is going to be the year of the driver again.
Yeah.
I mean, we can already say that.
Yeah.
And then I think it'll be the year of kind of component builds and shafts and things like that, just because there's so much more to offer. And now we have it.
Yeah.
We added Mitsubishi Chemical. We added, so we got all the new Diamana stuff finally. We have all the new Project X stuff. Project X is releasing another shaft that they want to compete with the VelaCore. The hazardous black will always be there, but it's just not a comparison to it. I think, too, leading on from the driver, Kyle, what was our number one putter in the store?
Lab.
Not even close. Not even close. Lab, what model?
Mez.
Yep, the Mez.
I say, and not even close, right?
I mean, I was going to say we sold well over almost 300 putters this year, just from May to this year. So, again, it's not 100%, but the Lab, it just wasn't even close. And then number one wedge,
Vokey.
SM9. SM9 Tour Chrome is actually our number one wedge, and then our number one ball.
Pro V1, Pro V1X.
Pro V1X isn't even in the top 10.
Really?
Pro V1, Pro V1 Lash Dash
Yeah.
is 2, and guess what our third ball is? I don't think you guys are going to guess it.
Yeah, TP5.
Shrixon Q Star Tour.
God dang it, Kyle. Are you looking at... Did you run the reports?
I know my inventory. That's a terrible thing.
Q-Star Tour was our third
Wow.
best ball here.
$34.99.
Now, I
like
will
you
say
got
the
yeah.
numbers are a little skewed because we did a sale and we sold all of our Vice balls because Vice, you become brutal to work with.
Yeah.
But, so Vice balls are no longer in the store. But the... yes, the number one, like that's what surprised me is that the TP5 was a better seller than the Pro V1X. And I think that's because if players playing the Pro V1X, they're playing the left dash.
Well, exactly. I was going to say, I think with the current Pro V1 family, and how they've repositioned the Pro V1 specifically, you've almost kind of
phased out a ball.
phased out the Pro V1X. You know, I mean, because realistically, it's the Pro V1, but feels firmer.
Yeah.
And most golfers prefer a softer feeling golf ball.
Yeah. And I would say kind of to all this, you know, as a whole, Mizuno was our best selling iron here at Loggerhead this past year. And I think that's a testament, not just because we're selling Mizuno, right? That's just what's coming out of the fittings. And that's why I wanted to relate this to the three of us as fitters as a whole. Mm-hmm. Now, we always obviously know what Tyler's number one iron is. The Wilson Dynapower.
I was going to say, yeah.
But I think Mizuno, it's not even close this past year that it was the best iron compared. I would say the Ping's probably right there.
I was going to say, but specifically the JPX family, they built an iron that performed extremely well.
Yeah.
And it fit between the models, the Hot Metal Pro, and Hot Metal Forged. It fit a lot of golfers. I mean, you can fit basically anybody into one of those models.
You can fit every golfer into that model of club.
You have a ton of options in it.
Yeah.
You know,
At a price point that's basically...
Between play links, lie angles, shafts, grips, you got tons of options in it. And then it's a really good price point.
Now, it was a great... I mean, it was... Now, granted, we had more fitters this year than we did last year. So, obviously, we've done the most fittings we've ever done as a company. And the goal is to do even more next year,
right?
You know, but it makes it tough because it's also on the companies themselves. Now we'll say this: we're more equipped now to also fit you into your own clubs than we were probably 12 months ago for sure. So it just needs to be able. I think the good news is companies are always coming out with new stuff, but that doesn't mean we can't make changes to your current.
Right.
And this kind of shows like you had a little bit different stuff than I had. Mm-hmm. And then even though you are a Tyler staffer, I'm a Callaway, you're a Ping, there wasn't any bias there, was there?
I mean, right? In fact, in my tops, Titles didn't even show up.
Callaway only showed up in the driver.
Yeah.
Now I will say probably our fifth best iron as a store was the Big Bertha.
Well, and I was gonna say,
but Callaway does not have an iron right now. They need to fix it.
I was gonna say Paradigm. We had January to May Paradigm. We sold a ton of Paradigm in the start of the year.
We did
irons.
We did.
It definitely slowed down though. Middle of the year.
But I mean, and I think that kind of leads into this next year. It's going to be a great year for golf equipment. Not that this past year wasn't for those of you that did buy new clubs, but you know, I think as a whole, the most disappointing one I would say for us is TaylorMade drivers.
Stealth 2 didn't perform like we had hoped it would.
You know, but I think, hey,
at the same time,
the QI10 stayed in the bag for Tiger for 2 tournaments in a row, so it has to be pretty good.
We did have people we fit that hit that Stealth 2 and hit it really well. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's still for the right person, performed really well. We would just say like its kind of operating range was a little narrower than the Titleist was. That's why we fit so many people into the Titleist driver.
One of the things that's nice is with us being able to see some of this equipment earlier, you know, and some of these companies said, hey, you know, we didn't have our best year like we wanted, but with the new one we've got with our R&D team, we created some tech, and we can't say the tech yet, but we fixed the issue that was causing some of the malfunctions to happen. Because think about it, Callaway did it at the start of the year with the Apex Pro iron. They sent it out, and then they sent every fitting account an email saying, hey, we're not happy with how that turned out. Let's get it back here so we can fix it. Mm-hmm. And I don't recall, I mean, like, you know, we always joke about I've been doing this forever. This is the first time
35 years.
Yeah. This is the first time where golf companies, when they had a product that didn't perform or had an issue, they actually fixed it or owned up to it.
Yeah.
So I think like that's one thing that I really appreciate about this last year is TaylorMade, Callaway, Mura with the finish issue that they had. They said, hey, we know we messed up a couple things. Let's bring it back and get you a new one and make it right.
Yeah.
So like that's something to me that kind of speaks volume is when you're spending $500 to $700 on a driver with a stock shaft. That's an investment, and now they're actually backing this investment up. So I think that's pretty good on them.
That's why I think this past year it's great for us to reminisce on. But also,
in retrospect, right? In advancement's always kind of the goal, but 2023 was a pretty big year in advancement for across the board for golf equipment.
I don't think 2024 is going to be.
And it looks like 2024 is going to be a pretty big step too.
I think it will be a big. I think we're going to see a big step, and I'll kind of go ahead and hint at it: forgiveness. Because ball speed, I mean, we're kind of maxed out right now, and that's why I think the USGA. But I also think the USGA is going to crack down on that in 2025. So expect 2024 to be the year to bring in some new equipment, because starting in 2025, the USGA is going to crack down.
I was like, if you haven't bought a new driver and new golf clubs in a while, 2024 is your chance to get in there before USGA cracks down.
Or they put the governors on them.
Yeah. Because it's coming with the ball roll back. I mean, they're going to hit the driver next. So.
But I mean, that's pretty. I wanted to put the year in review in kind of numbers, because we don't really talk about a whole lot of what exactly we fit people into. I mean, this is what the consumer came out of our fittings with. So, and if this helps you get into, you the listeners get into a new set of clubs, something like that, it just shows that we are an unbiased fitting process here at Loggerhead Golf. So
yeah.
Well, when you go over the shafts too, think about 2 out of our top 3 shafts were graphite. Mm-hmm. That's something that was huge this year. Is a lot of these new golfers don't have this bias on, I got to play steel because it's stronger.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we don't have steel versus graphite. I mean, steel outsold graphite in irons.
For sure.
But graphite had a much bigger share of that this year than it
ever
had. And I think it just goes to show you how good those composite graphite shafts are now, how many options you have in it. And
and with the basically heads being maxed out, where else can a company put money into research and development shafts?
But, and to me, it always comes back to feel. When a golfer hits a golf club, they like the way it feels. That's probably the one they're going to go with. And so how good the graphite shafts feel.
Yep.
Any predictions?
I'll say you guys are bringing up some kind of good points, so we probably want to get to show and tell here.
Get show and tell.
Now, close out the year. Caleb and I got the dub. I don't know if your listeners, you remember we had Zach from Afterward Golf Club on the podcast. He talked about the 2-man scramble that they're putting on. It happened on the 9th and the 16th. And Caleb and I were actually able to seal the deal this past Saturday. And
looked a little shaky there in the second round.
Brutal. And little did I know, so this is the trophy on the table, Caleb. When I got home, I did not know that was this. Like, until I got home and I saw a picture or something, I didn't realize this was the state of North Carolina.
Yes.
I'm sitting here holding it at the thing. I was like, this thing has some cool, like, little...
Yeah, it's a crushed can in the state of North Carolina, yeah. So, actually, no, it's USA.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, the crushed can is?
Yeah, there's Florida, Texas.
I thought you were talking... No. This can get out of hand.
Where it was, yes.
The actual state of North Carolina.
That's where
it's the bottle.
Oh, yes, the bottle. Sorry.
So
there's a lot going on in that bottle.
My point exactly.
But no, I don't know. Nobody commented what they thought we were going to shoot. But
I did a poll the first round. Yeah. I did a poll on my Instagram, which got a ton of votes. So for someone that doesn't have a lot of followers, that was pretty cool. I mean, I think I put 72 to 69, which 0% voted for.
Good.
68 to 60.
68 to 64, I think
68 to 64, which I think was like 14% of the vote.
Yeah.
Then I did 63 to 61. And then, or 63 to 60, and then sub 60.
Yeah.
So those of you that voted first round,
we shot
63 to 60, we shot 60.
Yeah.
And again, first round was not looking good.
No.
Then we turned on, and especially Saturday. Saturday was brutal on the front 9, but turned around and got the dub.
Yeah, the Muni played tough.
Played tough,
but shot 20 under for the tournament.
want some cool trophies, and biggest thing about that kind of stuff is building kind of golf society, still running fun tournaments, things like that. And then
say it was
get a little extra cash in our pockets.
It was a lot of fun to play in the event. Honestly, it's always just fun to compete, but something like that's a little more relaxed.
That's my biggest thing. We were still.
We were grinding. I wanted to win.
Yeah.
For sure. But appreciate After Work Golf Club for hosting the event.
Yep. Is that good? Lead us into show and tell.
Yep.
Now, Miles, why did you put these on the screen?
I say. Well, we know the one on the left, the Kirkland. It's had a lot of news recently, right?
Yep. I mean, biggest thing. So we did in our show and tell last week. We talked about the Kirkland iron release and how it's sold out and how they're flipping on eBay right now for like $800.
We didn't. Oh, they were announced last week. They hadn't sold out yet last week.
Oh well, they sold out in like an
a
hour,
week later. Yeah, they're sold out, and now people are flipping them for way.
And we posted we posted a 2-minute clip that got a little bit of flack, and this is where I think we need to clear the air a little bit.
All right.
Because we said nothing but positive things about what this Kirkland iron is going to provide to the consumer. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think a lot of maybe things I said were misconstrued about direct-to-consumer brands. So now I want to kind of talk about what's the difference between us, club fitting snobs,
right,
and direct-to-consumer brands.
The direct-to-consumer brand, you've got the thing I noticed, you generally have one option. And then with us, you have countless options.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the biggest thing, the easiest way to put it, is that direct-to-consumer brands, they're going from factory to their company or from their company's website to a single factory and shipping directly to you. There's very little advertisement. There's very little marketing into the club itself, and there's very little, I want to say, R&D process. But it's a way for the company to cut out a lot of costs that they don't have to put into their irons. Mm-hmm. So they do make it a great option into purchasing a well-performing club.
Yeah.
I mean, My Golf Spy has done tests with various different companies. I don't know if they done a Tacoma test.
Yeah, they actually spent a lot of time with Tacoma, and then Swag Golf every summer series they did, Tacoma was there with clubs too.
Yeah. That being said, is there a way for the customer to hit them before buying them?
Nope. It's a big gamble.
Most of the time, there's not.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's where I don't think direct to consumer companies are bad themselves. I just think that it's tough. I mean, for how often we get people that come in our store that want to buy something, they're like, "Well, how do I know it's right for me?" We're like, "That's exactly what a fitting will do."
Yeah.
There's not a possible way to do it with these type of clubs.
And so, I mean, from a club fitting standpoint, even if you don't change shaft, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say that head and shaft are static. Mm-hmm. How important is play length and lie angle?
Really important. I mean, what's the bottom of the golf club interact with the ground?
I mean, it determines strike location. You know, I kind of jokingly said that since JPX 923 was my number one club I fit into, I probably fit that person into 2 degrees upright and plus half an inch because seemed like that was what I had to change to get the strike location to be correct for a lot of my golfers I had fit for. Now, if you buy that golf club and it's coming at stock length and stock lie angle, and I know that most people I fit were 2 degrees upright and plus half an inch, not a single one of them can fit into either one of those two irons, just right off the bat, whether the shaft's perfect for them or not.
Now, here's where I'm going to kind of bridge the gap a little bit.
Right.
They can come to us and get fit into those specs because, again, we're not pushing a sale directly out of a fitting. So you can need X100s at plus a half inch, 2 degrees upright. And a lot of the direct-to-consumer companies, you can go on their website and order the clubs at those specs. Now, the Kirkland clubs, you cannot.
You cannot.
I'll also say this. The majority of the clubs that you get from a direct-to-consumer are not a forged body. Yeah. Now, Sub 70 makes an awesome forged club. Mm-hmm. They also make it in raw, different finishes. But a lot of other clubs, you might bring it into a shop like us and tell us, hey, can you bend it? Hey, we might be able to bend it a degree, but it's going to have memory and it's going to go right back.
Anything cast is going to want to go back. But I would always say there's nothing wrong with buying direct to consumer. Nothing wrong with trying to save a little money here and there, right? However, don't just pull the trigger on a set of golf clubs on a website because you think it's a good deal. How many times we see people coming to the shop and they have golf clubs they bought because it was a good deal, and now they're contemplating changing shafts or having to do something to make those golf clubs fit them or perform the way they want them to.
So I made a comment last podcast about how the performance is not there and they break, and people are like, how do you know that? Like, because I constantly have to come in and do fittings for existing irons that a customer bought that didn't know anything about them, and he's wanting me to perform a miracle surgery on a set of clubs that is just not possible.
Yeah.
And then also when I tell somebody to reshaft clubs, it's around $100 a club. I would say on the cheap end, at least $70 a club.
Yeah.
For a fairly well-priced shaft.
Yeah.
So like reshafting has gotten a little bit of expensive. So when you only spent $110 on the club head, direct to consumer, and then now you're reshafting it at another $100 on top of it.
The expense increases quite quickly. And before you know it, you're in there, it's just expensive.
And here's
or more
my thing.
expensive.
There's a reason why direct to consumer
major
brands are still
manufacturer.
around. They work.
Yeah.
They work. I mean, iron technology has not really changed as far as when it comes to players' irons. Technology has been very minimal as far as what a CB does and what an MB does for how long? Wouldn't you agree, Kyle?
I mean, look at Daniel Berger.
Yeah.
One of the best iron strikers is using a set of irons from 2011.
Yeah. So, and this is always relative because ultimately at the end of the day, the only person that needs to like their golf clubs
Is the person playing them.
is the person playing them, right? So it's not my job to tell you if your clubs are good or not. But don't come here and tell me Tacoma irons are better than TaylorMade and Callaway. On what basis can someone make that statement? I can't make the statement on the other way, but I know one company pays millions, but two companies pay millions and millions and millions of dollars into R&D, into quality control, into the materials they use. So yes, even though a new set of irons now are getting up there, there's a lot of stuff in the back end.
So there's a lot that goes into that.
Now, the nice thing, what was our number one iron this year? Mizuno. How much are those a club?
$137.50.
So
with
a
any of the
7-piece set is under $1,000.
Yeah.
So like, and that's the thing. It's not that we only have stuff like you have to have $1,000. I mean, you can get a great fully custom built with a custom shaft from Tour Edge Golf for $90 a club.
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
There are options out
there
there.
are options, and this is where I say if you want to go the direct to consumer route, I'm all for it. Just maybe come in and get fit.
Well, that's
your
the point I was
specs.
trying to make is that when I was saying never just go to a website and just buy something without really doing your research, I would strongly encourage every golfer to go and see a professional. Whether it's a PGA professional that you work with on your golf swing or you've worked with it at a local pro at a golf course, someone who can give you some information about golf clubs that you can trust. And to take that step further, I would strongly encourage you to get fit, if nothing else, for your play lengths and lie angles.
Yeah, static measurement.
Yeah. And the reason why that way you can at least start to get a golf club that's set up in a manner to where you can have some success with.
See, and that's where, like, with the direct-to-consumer brands, Tacoma does a better job in sub-70 than most others. Because they at least allow you to change these items before you order the clubs.
I'll say, you're good. The Hogan, the last iteration of the Hogan Golf Company did that as well, too.
See, and that's, like, where it gets interesting is, like, one of our, things that we read is about Hogan and how they were good. Hogan wasn't just direct to consumer though; they had 4 various outlets through big box stores where you could go in and get fit.
So it's not really direct to
and
consumer.
Sub 70 has fitting accounts across America where you can go and get fit. So even though they're semi listed as direct to consumer, it's not a true direct to consumer because there's still options of you testing that club before you buy.
Well, it's like this. It's not. None of them are really technically direct
because
to
they're
consumer
all made
because you're not buying that golf club from the factory that made it.
Correct.
I was going to say,
true.
well, the factory that makes these clubs are actually a factory that's been building clubs for almost 100 years, and they're coming out of a factory that actually knows what they're doing. So like that's why I'm not saying it's the quality. It's just the fact that a lot of these clubs are actually coming out of the same factory. So when Tacoma on their website say it's a
made in Finland or Sweden, whatever.
It's a specific type of design. It's like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What is it exactly? Oh, it's a Scandinavian mindset.
Well, using the Kirkland as not really to pick on it, but if you look at it, you can pretty clearly tell where that design came from.
P790.
It's a P790.
And I would say it's the 2 generations ago P790.
And it has like speed foam in it.
It's got the exact design of it, right?
So and this is where I'm going to say, like, to the performance wise, they are going to perform.
They're probably going to perform pretty good.
Equally as good as any other iron.
But that being said, it comes at a much lower price point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guarantee you there's been some corners cut somewhere in that process.
Yeah,
Whether it's
they went with
material,
shaft.
or I was going to say, and the shaft is what I was going to pick on next. And when you made the comment last week where you said, these are going to break, I don't know if I think everyone thought the club heads are going to break. But what
No,
we're talking about is the
shaft.
shaft is probably going to break. Because what is an Elevate 115 shaft? I know we
It's
had an
it's
Elevate
a shaft
85.
that's never, like, rare. Pretty
never
much
seen
didn't
a,
exist.
I've never seen an Elevate 115. I've seen Elevate 85s, 95s, and a 105. I've never seen a 115.
It was probably made for.
So my guess on what the Elevate 115 is, this is total speculation, but I'm going to still go with it because I know
We're
how
a speculation podcast.
right. I know how True Temper, what they've been known to do is half of their shafts that they offer are
We're a premier dealer of True Temper too. This is why we're
factory
saying
seconds.
this. Yeah.
Essentially, they didn't pass quality control for the shaft they were making. So that's probably a relabeled S300 and R300 that didn't pass quality control to be an S300 or an R300 or Dynamic Gold S300 or Dynamic Gold R300.
So like the DG120 that came in too light.
Correct.
Yep.
You know,
That's a good.
Okay,
Good
so
evaluation.
I bring this point.
you know the shaft's not a true.
And I bring this point because this is, I think, the easiest way to kind of compare spending $700 on a set of irons to maybe the going from this to maybe the hot metal. Right. Let's see if we could bridge the gap a little bit. What's the difference between an X100 and a Tour Issue X100, Kyle?
CPM and 2.5 grams of weight.
So that little bit of extra money that you spend into the Tour Issue X100 is because that shaft goes through a process to making sure every shaft is the exact same weight
It's also tolerant.
and the exact same CPM. So the tolerance it's as tight as it gets.
I say the
Now,
Tour
when you
issue,
just get the regular X100s, which is a fantastic shaft,
Yeah.
there might be a little bit of tolerance there, and that goes for any brand of
Yeah, I was
clubs.
going to say we're picking on that one because it's the most common one. But the
Well,
Tour Issue X100, it's a matched set.
It's a
correct?
match set.
And they have a variance of I think it's 2 or 3 grams,
Yeah.
and
I
then
like
in
that.
a
And that's from the
minimum.
4-iron shaft to the wedge shaft,
Right.
not shaft to shaft.
and then in a regularly labeled Dynamic Gold X100 that is not a match set. They go into a barrel and they're just picked when they get put together for a set of shafts. And then there's a variance of what I think 8 to 12 grams in those shafts.
Well, I think that's what was kind of cool about all of us, well, most of us going through the Dynamic Gold certification is how the S400 came about
Yeah.
and how the S300 was
Yeah.
made. The S400 was shafts, and then they had a couple thousand of these shafts laying around. And
Best
look what
wedge shaft
happened.
in
Now
the
it's the
world.
best wedge shaft ever.
Yeah.
You know?
It's and that's a thing. So ultimately, because we're this is our show and tell, not just a. We're just ranting now.
As you can see, we're
direct
kinda
to consumer
passionate about it.
brands.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Birdie.
Yeah.
I think they serve a purpose in society, like
I would
in the
say,
golf society. As
I would
a whole.
say, well, I guess Kyle.
Yeah.
you were-
I mean, like I said last week, I'm not going to change my mind. It's going to be par.
Yeah.
Because we can spend 15 minutes complimenting this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's going to be again. There's a chef I watch. He goes, "Cook it the way you like it, not
Yeah.
the way I'm cooking it." Right?
Right.
It serves its purpose of getting someone into golf at a reasonable price point, so that when they're either A, ready to graduate, or B, to reshaft their set, they've got the budget saved up to do that. So it's a good bridger at a little bit of a sacrifice.
Yeah, and I would say on that sacrifice is I truly can't say a club that you're not allowed to test or demo or get fit for yourself is better than something that's actually fitted.
You have no way to know
You
that
have
that's
no
the
way
best
to
performing
know
golf
that,
club
and
for
no
you.
one can tell you that.
Yeah, for you.
Right.
I'll say I'll stick with mine. Birdie, I think it's good for the golfer that wants that option. Like I said, I think golf needs more economical options. I've got
I
No problem
trust
with
me. Part of me, like, I would love for the big OEMs to come down on price a little bit.
yeah.
But at the same time, when they're paying professional golfers $100 million contracts, I hate to say it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know.
You know, we want that more than anybody.
Yeah, Birdie, but do your research.
Yep.
These look familiar.
I like the way these turned out when we got
I'll
finished
say this is
with
a
them.
good looking. Turned out to be a really good looking build.
Yeah, so this was our wedge raffle that we did.
I was gonna say.
I'm such a big fan of like customizing ferrules, things like that. Since I rebuilt my irons this past weekend, I put some new ferrules on, changed up the vibe a little bit, and I think it's a cool option. I think as far as these wedges go, other than ones in our fitting bay, I've never hit a Bettinardi wedge, so I'm looking forward to maybe hearing from whoever won them how they perform.
You called him.
I'm blanking on his name. What's his name, Miles? David.
I thought it was David.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name, but I called him. But I know David's stoked about him. So,
Yeah.
But definitely looking forward to seeing how he thinks they feel out on the golf course.
Get flushed.
I was
mean,
gonna
it's
say,
a
we built
flush.
them.
Like
We
that's
know
the
it.
thing.
Tolerance level.
Also, when we build them,
Yeah.
they're 100% to spec.
I say we built them to the specs he wanted, the length and lie angles. I was gonna say I liked how obviously we picked the stuff out, but like the color coordination between the ferrules and the grips I thought turned out really good. The Acura TZ wedge shaft is a really cool shaft with the chrome finish on it. It looks like steel, but it's composite, it's graphite.
I'm ready for these new wedges to come out next year because I have a set of those shafts that I'm waiting to put into something.
Yeah. So this was a cool overall package, and a set of wedges for $10 wasn't a bad deal. So flush.
$1,000 set of wedges for
Yeah.
$10. So, heck yeah.
That
putter?
What's a group of turtles called?
Oh, it's a bale.
It's a bale. That's a bale of turtles right there.
Kyle, you have the floor about this thing.
Yeah, so this was a special project we did for Daryl, the owner of Loggerhead. I worked with a team at Lab. When I was at Wyndham Championship, I got to spend some time inside the ropes with Adam Scott. And on the bottom of his putter, Lab had put kangaroos. I was like, well, the kangaroos are cool, but I think the turtle would look really good. Mm-hmm. And fast forward, I did a fitting, got Daryl this putter, and I reached out to our inside sales rep, and I was like, hey, I know you guys normally don't do this, but is there any way possible that we can do something a little bit cool with the bottom? I said, and if you can do it for Adam Scott, you can do it for us little guys too. And yeah, they laughed at that.
Kyle's
too.
not afraid of asking that stuff.
No, so we went and kind of, what you can't see in the photos, they also have a new TPT shaft that's developed specifically for their putter. So this is kind of like the Taj Mahal of Lab putters in the sense of specs. But this was a cool project. Turned out good because it's not overly, like the turtles are just on the bottom. So the top line's still clean.
Yeah.
So
I'd say it's a cool little detail you wouldn't always see, for sure.
Yep. I mean, it's a flush. I'm getting me a Lab putter eventually. So.
perfect. Well, if you guys haven't already, like and subscribe. We'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day all year to listen to us talk, jabber, argue, get a little edgy with some people. And
Now hear me out.
now hear me out.
Yeah.
So, but no,
theories.
truly, we appreciate it, and thanks for you guys participating in our Instagram content, our YouTube content, and just giving us an opportunity to be part of your golf story.
Yeah.
So, subscribe, turn on those push bell notifications. Merry Christmas and
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year.
See you next year.
Merry Christmas.